This is Paul Newman with Cashflow Cafe Podcast. This is episode number 2, where we talk about all things real estate, entrepreneurship, and cash flow. Today on our show, we have Mr. Adam Tsang, one of my great friends and a serial entrepreneur. We always bounce ideas off of each other, and I'm just glad to have you on the show. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, Paul, I just want to start off by saying thank you so much for inviting me to the show. Honestly, I have my own podcast, and you were one of the first guests that were on there, so it's an absolute honor to be one of yours. A little bit about myself, entrepreneur in Statesboro, Georgia. Started out in restaurants. I have the Saucy Shrimp. Yep. And then eventually moved over to So Yummy Asian Kitchen. Yep. Launched a media production company called Two Fly Guys Media. Quickly after that was Whiskey Grail, which is an e-commerce whiskey product. Yep. And then catching up at the tail end, public relations. So a lot of wide variety of different companies. Outside of that, I also enjoy investing in real estate. So
I love that.
That's what Paul likes.
Well, exactly. One of the cool, I've followed your journey and have loved and supported all of your businesses when I can. So Yummy is definitely one of my favorite. Got to get my sushi fix in, and the Teppan steak is the best.
Hey, we brought it back just for Paul.
Yes, I love the Teppan steak. But I'm really kind of excited for you to talk about Whiskey Grill.
Yep.
Bourbon is all the rage. Everybody love, it's all the different kinds, and you didn't get into the bourbon space in terms of coming up with the drink, but how cool is it with this product and how it goes with the bourbon world right now?
Absolutely. So just to kind of lay down some foundational things, what Whiskey Grill is it's a charred white oak drinking vessel that is scorched on the inside to mimic the environment that bourbon ages in. What that does for the drinking experience is that when you're drinking out of a glass versus drinking out of a grill, your nose has a different thing that it's smelling, right? So I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, but your nose actually has probably 70-80% of the impact of the way that things taste.
Right.
And so it basically changes the same bourbon. You can pour it into a glass and in the grill, and you're basically getting a different experience when you're drinking out of it.
It's so cool.
The story of Whiskey Grill, I think there's a bunch of different parts, right?
Yep.
I think at the beginning, it's really about kind of, you never know when the opportunity will arise. And so for me, when I was at Fab Lab, which is Georgia Southern's business innovation group, it's their entrepreneurial space. I met an individual that was a phenomenal, Jim Walker. He's my co-founder in the business. Awesome. He basically started out woodworking. He is a blacksmith, engineer, all around just creative. And he showed me the product, and he was like, he brought out this big box, and it was a couple cups, wooden cups at that time, and he showed it to me and said this is for drinking bourbon. And I remember that moment so specifically because I got chills up and down my spine.
You're like, uh-oh.
I was like, hey man, this is it. This is it. And from that point on, for about the next day or so, I was just kind of telling him this is the marketing strategy. This is who you need to get in the hands of. It can work at the distilleries. It can work just all over the place. And so for me, I think that's kind of the first part of it, which is you never know when that opportunity is going to come.
The aha moment. I love it.
Exactly.
That's why you always want to talk to people, and boom, it's conversation was oh wait, I'm in that.
That's right.
How can I help? What can I do? And obviously you complement each other.
That's right. The second part of this is, I think, really important for the community of Statesboro, even in small communities. And what that is, it's, we are not known for drinking bourbon in Statesboro, right? We do drink.
That's right.
That's something that we do. But this isn't bourbon drinking
that's right.
country, right?
That's right.
That's more in your Kentucky and your Tennessee or whatever it is.
Exactly.
But this product really speaks to the innovation that can happen in a small town. Yep. These whiskey grills are now being sold across the entire United States, in Kentucky, in Tennessee, and for me, that's the joy, right? I'm creating jobs within the local community. I'm creating a product that people connect with, and all through this kind of happenstance meeting between me and Jim, and now it's off to the races.
Can you share how many units you're actually producing?
We constantly talk about this. Right now, we are currently at 450 units per week, and it doesn't meet demand. we're selling out every single week.
I mean,
and
that's phenomenal, and you can't catch up right now.
Can't catch up.
And can you attribute some of the stuff how it's taken off?
Yes, absolutely. So actually, this is another interesting part of like the history. Late June of last year, we were actually we had sales, but it wasn't very strong.
Right.
And we were at a point where we had about 700 grails like stacked up in the corner of like the warehouse. And we didn't really understand what the next step was. We were getting ready to have that really hard conversation of like, hey, maybe it's like we just liquidate, get out of this, like,
right.
Hey, it's done.
Not moving, kind of a novelty thing.
Yes. And from the Fab Lab and the Business Innovation Group, there's a lot of sense of community. And one of my friends, he's also in the entrepreneurial space. His name's Hunter.
Yep.
He runs Burrowwood. And what he told me was like, hey, I think you should go on TikTok Shop. And at that point, we had actually had a decent amount of success on the TikTok platform. But all TikTok Shop was that it basically allowed you an opportunity to link the product to an actual video. Now, right now, what's happening is TikTok wants to go after Amazon. And because they are controlling the attention, right? Mm-hmm. If you think about the amount of time that you spend on TikTok, like people that spend on that platform, it would be the same as like people watching TV at this point.
Pull you off of Amazon, you get a little bit of TV, you get a little bit of shopping, all mixed in one. Hey, here's a good video, and go buy this product.
Exactly.
Genius.
Since we've done that, I mean, it's just like we went through those 700 units within like a week and a half, and we haven't like looked back since. And it's
the power of that platform.
It's crazy.
The power of TikTok.
Exactly. I want to share another component in here that I think is really important. We actually didn't shoot any new content on TikTok. We actually just took the old content that was getting maybe like 10,000 views, attached the product to it, like over kind of like currently over this past year, half of the year, between July and the end of the year, probably 5 million views, like, just collectively.
That's right.
Off all the videos. And so like that within itself can transform like a business. And now like we're in our own warehouse. We kind of like just purchased like, a pretty nice laser just to kind of like help with the production.
Upgrade and put money back in the business, more efficient, all the things.
Exactly.
One of the, I guess, 2 or 3 things that I heard for all entrepreneurs, I mean, you had an aha moment of coming and collabing with somebody that you go, man, this is awesome, right? But you had to be out there talking to people. You cannot, there are certain people that maybe they can't talk to anybody and still going to make a good living, but you need to be out talking with other people, innovating entrepreneurs. Here's another thing. Business was stagnant. You're in there having conversations. Man, what can we do?
Yep.
Somebody else gives you an idea.
Yeah.
And that's what's great about collaborating. And that's why we talk all the time. Hey, what's going on? What's moving, shaking? It's not always going to pop.
Yeah.
And then sometimes we can slow each other down too. Entrepreneurship is going, hey,
I'm not feeling it.
I'm not feeling that. Because you walk people through the steps. Well, what are you going to sell it for? Yep. What's the end game? How big are you going to scale it? And those are the things that I love, that you and I both love talking about.
Yeah, I mean, we always come back to this. It's like we can talk about business all day, every day, and it's just so fun. It's the biggest game that anybody could ever play, and and
you want to kick butt, you want to be competitive, and it's cool. And I've always heard you say, world domination, or whatever. And you're scaling, and it's fun to watch you go. You said it, and you're doing it, and it's booming. And I love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, let's talk a little bit about things we value. Everybody wants to have money coming in, right? And we can talk about saving and spending, but let's spend a little bit on spending. Like, where do you like some of your extra money? What are things you value in terms of, I'm willing to spend on this?
Yeah, I think, I value experiences. Experiences a lot. I love traveling.
Same.
I just got back from New York City, which was an amazing experience. I think we ate at 20 restaurants in 4 days.
Wow.
Yeah,
I need that itinerary.
Love it. Yeah, I can share it with you. It was a good one. It was a solid
Chelsea
one.
Market's cool, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It was just a fun...
Los Tacos #1. Did you hit that one?
I didn't hit that one.
Have you hit that one before? It's pretty highly rated, but it's in Chelsea Market. But what was your best restaurant in New York City?
Jeju Noodle Bar. They've Michelin before.
Yeah.
They had Wagyu ramen that was just like through the roof, and they also had this like tuna tartare, had caviar on it, uni. It was just really kind of like exceeded my expectations. I think that's what you're looking for in a restaurant.
I think I spend money on travel, and I like to stay at nice places when I go out of town. But also, I do like to go to the nice restaurants too. And I mean, sometimes I'll be cheap around here because I eat at the house. But when I go out to eat, out of town, I want to go out to eat to a nice restaurant. I think it's part of the experience for sure.
Yeah, another thing that I also love doing, even though it's kind of like it's just a ton of fun for me. Super intense though is music festivals. So I go to a lot of kind of like the EDM festivals.
You get the VIP stuff, or are you just in with the crowd?
I
cannot be in with the crowd anymore.
The crowd. It's kind of like grimy and dirty. Like that's where my people are at.
Never.
It's kind of like, for me, it's really understanding kind of like what's happening, and it's funny.
Keeps you youthful, but my grades are coming in, so it's like, so I'm just getting too old for the crowd. I gotta actually have a seat at a concert. I just don't even know if I could do festivals anymore.
I mean,
call me old.
So I think what's interesting about this past time that I went is, even in that moment, during that time when I'm listening to music, when I'm kind of like surrounded by people, I was actually coming up with business ideas.
Of course. Right?
What? I mean, so even
I got one for you right now on air. It's like, hey, nobody's stealing this. It's me and you. All right. So this is a food truck.
Okay.
Okay. And it's healthy smoothies, like a tropicals, all these things. But it's a food truck that shows up to your workplace and says, hey, ice cream truck, but healthy smoothies.
the same concept.
Come on.
I like it.
That's pretty good.
What's the song that's going to play on the that you notice?
Not sure. It's some kind of Hawaiian themed. What is the little Kona ice or what's that? I don't even know what it's called. Over the Rainbow or something.
Something like that.
Something where it's, I don't know, but like healthy options. You pull up and you got a smoothie instead of having to go. It's coming up to the office.
Health is interesting to me, right? Like, we are all kind of like trying to figure out like how do we maintain our lifestyle? How do we go for longer? Even like out of habits for me, like, I'm not much of a drinker, even though I have a whiskey grow company, right?
Yep.
And so like, I definitely value, and everything is moving towards that direction. If you notice, even kind of like with like, the different restaurants, fast food or whatever it is, there's always now this emphasis on kind of like healthy eating.
I don't understand how there's just not a salad place. I mean, like, where's a little quick salad place? I mean, I don't know. I have salads almost every day for lunch.
Who do you get your salads from? Usually.
Well, I eat at the house a ton.
Okay.
I mean, we'll make salads at the house. I like Holiday salad a lot. They've got a really cool Greek dressing.
Have to hit that.
Sometimes I'll do McAllister salads, but I bet 80% of the time I'm eating at the house.
Gotcha.
Salad at the house. I don't even need meat a lot of the times. I know everybody's like, gotta have the meat on it. I mean,
no protein?
Broccoli, cauliflower, carrots, a little spinach.
Keeping it clean.
I'm focused to the start of this year. I've ran over 40 miles.
So
I'm on it.
Okay.
But I know fitness has always been a big part of you, and it gets rid of all of our crap up here, right?
That's right. I mean, for me, it's every single morning, right? Like
you're a
like
very disciplined person,
yeah.
And I think with all the stuff you got going on, I think it clears your brain. But I've noticed that since first time I met you, saw you pounding away on a boxing bag. He hits hard. I've probably said that before on multiple episodes.
I like it.
All right, so what about what's your time savers, right? We talked about spending some money, like. How do you save time? Because that we all want time. Of course, we all want to make money and cash flow, but how are you saving on your time?
The biggest one that comes up to mind is really like my quote unquote uniform. I wear literally the same thing every single day. And I noticed it this morning because I had like a couple minutes before.
It's always black.
It's always black, always V-neck, like, the same pants, same everything. And putting away clothes, like it took me like maybe a minute. Like, it was literally like, hey, the clothes were done, like, folded or whatever, put them away, pop, oh, I was done.
Saved you time.
Saves me time.
It's the little things that add up on your daily routine. You don't spend any time. Maybe somebody spends 3 to 4 minutes a day thinking about what they're going to wear.
Yep.
Nope.
I don't have to consider it. It's just literally I put the shirt on, get it out.
Steve Jobs.
Yeah, I'm trying. One day I will get there.
Is it... Let's go back to spending money. Is it quality? All your black items and all your clothes. Is it Lululemon has certain like nice looking shirts, or is it like that doesn't really? It's just really just a good fitting black tee.
As long as it fits me well, that's what I care about. And quality does make an impact, right? Like I don't want the the clothes to fall apart after I wash it.
Yeah.
And so like, over an extended period of time, I will change them out, make sure I get fresh new ones, so forth and so on. But, for me, it's really about kind of like the fit, if I feel good, right?
Yeah.
Like, cause like, that's the other side of it, is that you have to feel good every single day. Like that's a very important part of your day.
Well, the gym you start with the gym, and it's non-negotiable for you. You're pretty much going to be there every day.
Every single morning.
I love it.
Nonstop.
What about some other time savers that you're like, man, I do this well and it saves me time?
I like to run a pretty tight schedule. In terms of kind of like getting to places like
calendar.
Right, yes, like my calendar is really kind of like set in a way.
Hyper focused.
Yes,
have to be.
At this point, if it doesn't make it onto the calendar, I'm probably not going to do it.
That's right.
I have a to-do list. This is both a pro and a con. I have something called Clear app.
Okay.
It's basically a tracking system, and it used to connect with my desktop, my laptop, where I could like sync my list. Now it's like they've updated the app and they've taken that away. But that app really kind of like allows me to cross off things and understand like what I have coming up next, right? Because oftentimes if you don't have that structure, you're kind of like, you can sit at a computer, maybe like browse Facebook, browse like, social media, so forth and so on, and you can get lost.
And that's the time waste.
Exactly. So for me, it's like that to-do list and that calendar. Those two things keep me on track.
I think, my to-do list, which is crazy. A lot of people would never do this, but I delete my text messages. And it's kind of like it's my to-do list. So I probably receive 100 text messages a day. It is absolutely bananas. And if I'm done, I told you I was going to do X, then I delete it. Hopefully I put it in the calendar, and I was a couple minutes late for this podcast, But so the text messages like, hey, send this contract, do this. And once I've kind of done what I told you I was going to do, I delete it. And then the next action item is up, which is another text messages. And
are you same way with email?
So Mary, my office manager, helps. She is like my email. She's my first line of defense. She's like, hey, you need to see this email if it's really important, kind of high level. So delegating for me helps me save time and grow. So I actually do not send that many emails hardly at all. It's Mary as me. So
But your main form of contact is mainly through
text and telephone calls.
Gotcha.
Yeah. That's right. And then, a lot of the important stuff, obviously I'm reading over the emails that need to get hit, but it's a lot. It's a lot when you're juggling as many things as we are.
That's
right. And you have to delegate, and then of course have the right people to delegate to, because that's
team
the
is
ticket,
very important.
The team, and I found the number one thing with people that are good is you still got to give them flexibility too. You can't be so rigid on show up every single day. Hey, they're going to need a day off. I mean, moms at PMG, we have some moms at PMG and States for Real Estate, and it's like, hey, I got a sick kid, or I got to run them to a ball field or whatever. So you got to be flexible. You can't just be like, you got to be at the office every single, So that's been a good key for employee retention.
That's great.
With me.
That's great.
Have you had problems in your business with keeping, or how's
as of late, it's been better.
Steady.
The restaurants are always challenging to staff at times. I mean, thankfully we are in a college town, and there's usually college students that are always looking for work. But finding the key people, right? So you mentioned a little bit about kind of like valuing staff, and I was actually just having this conversation with another entrepreneur earlier today. Our ability to lead really dictates how large we can grow.
Of course, they're watching you.
Exactly.
They're watching you, how you treat them, and how are you treating them?
Exactly. And some people have the ability to. Some people have a natural ability to kind of fall into and become a team member and valuable.
Right.
But the issue that comes is if they don't have someone to look up to kind of guide them through the process to get them to where they need to be, then they usually fall off, right? And I think I'm really big on communication. Anytime there's a problem, talk to me. I hate handling things through text. I'm like, hey,
especially
if
it's got some teeth to it.
Exactly.
Because text messages are always like,
I don't know. Are you saying that? Or are you saying this?
Backfires every time. If it's
Exactly.
heated, you better either pick up the phone or call or do a face-to-face.
Exactly. And I think that solves probably 70-80%, because there's an expectation that they have and an expectation that you have.
Yep.
If there's any sort of challenges between the two, and if they don't see eye to eye, that's when the problems occur. occur,
No
right?
doubt.
And so being able to kind of like communicate with someone and said, hey, like, this was a problem that I saw this past week, but I want you to try to resolve it this upcoming week by doing something different. If you're able to communicate that effectively and lead them towards what you need them to do, that's always a better like solution.
Well, it's just going to get worse if you don't. And,
Yes,
and
exactly.
I found that attacking the problem quickly as you can. Sometimes it's not even a big problem as we have in our head. It's like, oh my God. I mean, I've got somebody at PMG who I love, and she's just like, she'll let it grow. And I'm like, just attack it.
Yeah.
And then every time it's like, that was nothing.
Exactly.
So if you attack the problem, I've always found in my life that's the best thing to do, because the longer you let it sit, it just becomes worse.
That's right.
What would you say, number one entrepreneurial tip for the young entrepreneur? Like if you're like, hey, step number one, step number two is you got to do these couple things, for the young entrepreneur trying to get in the game.
I think I meet with a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of people that have a ton of talent. For me, I think the taking that leap, and I think we've all had to do this. Like every single business owner at some point in their kind of like career has this moment of like jumping off that cliff and saying like, let's go, right? Yeah. And you have to have the stomach for that. And I'll be honest, not everybody is meant to be an entrepreneur. Definitely. Like if you are happy with your kind of like, 9 to 5, go home to the kids, and that's what you want in your life, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. But if you want to kind of like build an organization, if you like this side, you have to be willing to jump off that cliff and stomach everything that comes with that, because it is a ton. Like there's always...
The failure rate's high.
Exactly.
Extremely high.
Exactly.
And it's your nerves and all the things. And like the longer you sit and think, should I do it? Should I do it? Some people never do it. They get caught in the analysis paralysis.
Yes.
Deal. And that is, for me, almost it's right along where you're at, is be decisive. Take the action. If you're thinking about it, if it fails, then you learn from it. Now, obviously,
I love that.
If you have to risk a bunch of money, you got to think about that more. But if you've got a low risk or a low money entry to something that you've thought about, take the action and do it.
Yeah,
go.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I see this like often. It's just like, being able to, make that decision, and also kind of like, pushing it further down the line, right? I see, a lot of entrepreneurs that, have this, are faced with challenges, right? Yep. And when they are faced with those challenges, they often can't try to get over that, and they don't know how. For me, I'm always thinking of like different ways or different angles to move the needle forward. Yep. How do you get the football down the field? Claw, run, throw, whatever action that you can do to get that ball down the field and score the touchdown, because that's what we're graded on.
It's the name of the game.
That's right.
And it's the strategy and all the implementation of it. It's entrepreneurship is just I love it. I eat, sleep, and breathe it. But real estate and entrepreneurship are kind of the same thing, right?
Yep.
Like when you go buy a piece of property, you are in theory being an entrepreneur. That's your property that you want to get rented out. An investment, an investment property. Sometimes you need property managers, but a lot of people, same thing. You're getting stuck going, I don't know. But would you have loved to bought real estate any time over the last 6 or 7 years? I mean, you would be thanking yourself had you bought.
That's right.
And I still think it's the same today. Yes, the numbers are rough, interest rates are rough, but are you going to be mad that you bought a piece of real estate now and wait back 10 years and see what you get? You're not.
That's right.
It is that. What is it? Don't wait to invest in real estate. Invest in real estate and wait.
Yes.
And you got to hammer that.
That's right.
But that goes back to taking action.
How would you suggest somebody get into the real estate industry right now?
Well, I think the easiest way, in my opinion, is go buy a house that is not your dream house. It is not your forever house. Go buy the house that is something that you can afford and move into it and fix it up yourself, whether it's painting, getting some nice flooring in. Don't break the budget, and then you can move out. But the reason to buy and move in is it's the low cost of entry. You're buying that house as your primary at a 5% down payment with lower, investment rates are normally higher than a single, than it's your first house.
I like that. And then after
repeat the formula.
Got you. You've done this in your career?
I've done it, absolutely.
How many times?
Probably 3 times.
Wow.
Now the third ended up being the house that I've lived in now forever. I hope I kind of keep staying there. 1.875. Shout out, best interest rate in history. Ooh. Let me know who's beating 1.875.
Who'd you get that from? Let me go talk to them.
That's a 15-year. I got it from Movement Mortgage. Sorry, local lenders. I love you. But 1.875.
That's a beast.
Yeah, that was actually a cash out refinance. So the cash out refinance is where you pull your equity from the house. I only owed $100 on my house. I did some nice things in the backyard, got the house reappraised, and pulled it all out. And so now I owe like $300,000 on the house, but it's at a 1.875 interest rate, and I got $200,000 back in my pocket to go reinvest.
That's awesome.
And buy property.
That's amazing. Are they offering that to anyone right now?
I don't think you can get 1.875 right now. That may have been a brief moment in history. But no, the interest rates are kind of staying stubbornly high right now.
Yeah.
But, you know, I've loved our entrepreneurship talks, our real estate talks. I mean, what do you like in terms of real estate, like something that you kind of look forward to? I mean, you know, one thing I'll spotlight is just like the restaurant space. Owning the real estate of the restaurant space is great, right? And that's how a lot of restaurateurs make it work, right?
Yeah, I think, you know, for me, it's holding value, right? Like when you make that purchase, and obviously it's more expensive to do that, but real estate is just something that just always goes up in value, right? Over time, like historically, like as an average.
As long
like
as you don't sell on the dip.
Exactly.
Should be fine.
Exactly. And so like from a restaurant perspective, I mean, I'm not sure if you're familiar with obviously like McDonald's, right?
Yeah, I've heard this
like,
analogy.
Right, huge real estate. They make money obviously on the burgers, but really what the value is the real estate holdings that they have. And so if you think think of
McDonald's being a real estate
company.
Ever.
Exactly. From surface level, that's all we know.
99% of the public says they're selling hamburgers.
Exactly.
But the ones that are in the real estate space that want cash flow think, man, that'd be a good piece of real estate to own. I wonder what they pay in rent per month to the owner.
That's right.
And I don't know McDonald's setup, whether they owners own the...
I think it's changed over time. But
Chick-fil-A's got some crazy setups, but man, who wouldn't love to own Chick-fil-A?
I like that.
But their game is crazy. You got to work in it. You got to hustle. Big shout out, because those people earn it. The ones that own the Chick-fil-A, they're in it working that space. So you can't just... You and I we can't just go own a Chick-fil-A.
You can't. And they decide where you go too. Like after you work in it, you don't have a decision like, hey, like I want to go back to my hometown. It's like literally like
better set up. This is where you can raise your family.
Exactly.
Make a living.
Exactly.
But that Chick-fil-A model is banging.
Yeah.
Any new restaurant concepts you're working on? Anything that you
I might got
share?
something, you know, set up.
Cooking?
Yeah. We will see. We'll see what kind of like what happens. I mean, you know, obviously. Looking for kind of like, you know, real estate. So if you know any restaurants out there that are second generation, we'd love to kind of like, you know, figure out
it's
something.
Just nothing for sale, man. Yeah. No inventory. It is really hard for agents right now to get out and make a good living. I mean, I think there's a ton of agents that are hurting. I've had more mortgage calls from lenders lately. They have to be hurting because I'm getting calls from all over. I mean, I'm out of Florida and how can I get your business? And I'm just like, man, I barely have enough business to send my local people here. And so I don't know. I find it strange that out-of-state people would even call, you know.
I think it's kind of like this time period where like people are just looking for anything that can come their way.
Yeah.
So.
You know, so another couple of things I want to go over is like these are kind of three questions I like to usually kind of wrap up the podcast. You know, how do you like your coffee in the morning?
I always get a pour over. Three Tree is my coffee shop that I go to.
Big shout out to 3 Tree, my favorite, personal favorite.
Yeah, so I usually get a pour over. I find the pour over takes a little bit longer time, and I use that time to kind of like slow me down. So
I'm not patient enough for the pour over.
So I usually kind of like go that route. I that's usually how I like my coffee.
Maybe I need to try it. I don't know if I've had it maybe once or twice, but I'm straight black.
Yeah, that's how I like mine too. Maybe like a splash of oat milk at times, but for the most part, just black coffee.
Just black coffee.
Yeah.
So another thing is, if you had $100,000 to invest right now, what would you personally put it in? And of course, this is real estate, you know, is what I love to put it in, but not everybody has that same feel. I mean, where are you spending $100,000 extra cash?
Right now, my engine is really Whiskey Grill. So
I'm back into the business.
Back into the business, build out more like, you know, automation, kind of like, you know, build out that setup, because to me, that's my cash flow, right? Like, I mean, that business, like if I had the extra, I would dump it into there.
And entrepreneurs, when they know they have a good thing like you do and you see the results, let's make it better. Let's make it quicker. How can we scale it? And that takes money.
That's right.
So that's an awesome thing to put the extra 100 back into. And I think that's probably, I mean, that's going to be your business livelihood and you're an entrepreneur, put money back into your business.
Yes.
Because you can't, hey, I'm good.
Yeah. I've seen it before where people suck the money out and it just ultimately like doesn't do the business any service, right? If you're not making like small, like constant improvements to like whatever business it is, ultimately it's like your house, right? Like, you know, making sure that everything's in working order, you know, the filters are changed, so forth and so on. Like you have to spend time on that.
And you got to keep branding and putting money in it. Maybe you putting your extra money back into the marketing again.
Yeah.
One of my favorite sayings is best known beats best. Is Starbucks the best coffee? No, you and I both like Three Tree better.
That's right.
But you dang sure know who
they spending some marketing dollars.
You know who Starbucks is. If you ask a kid, I always play these games with my kids in the car. I'm like, if you had to name one coffee shop right now, Starbucks, instantly.
Yep.
So best known beats best. So you have to continue to market yourself all the time.
Yeah.
Which is what I always try to do in my business as well.
What you're doing right now.
That's right.
Finally started the podcast after years of me telling you.
Hey, but it's you pushing, right?
I like it.
Little seeds.
I like it. I like
seeds.
it. We got to make it grow faster.
That's it. Let's go. What is you? And I think we touched on this a little bit, but this was the last question: is what is your number one time waster, and how can you improve on it? What is the number one thing that gets your time that you're like,
man? I'm in the business, so like I kind of like justify it, if you will. But like, you know, on the PR firm side, you know, social media, like I do spend quite a bit of time on there. I'm trying to understand kind of like what are trends, and my justification is like, okay, if I can see something that is working for another business, then I can translate that over, right? And that at times sometimes will pull you into this like endless like time suck, right?
But it is business mixed in, so it's a guilt.
I guess I justify it, right?
It is.
But that does, if I could spend a little bit less time on that, I think that would be really beneficial.
I think all of us, like when we look at our phones and if you look at some of the time and it says social media time, you're like, oh my God.
I cannot believe
did that get that many hours and it suck away my day. So
that's right.
I think that's going to be a common theme. I think all of us are glued to our phones and wish we weren't, but it is the society we live in.
Yeah.
Adam, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Pleasure.
Mad respect, and I hope we continue our friendship for years to come. I'm proud of you and your journey. Keep crushing it out there.
All right. Appreciate you, Paul. Thank you so much.
Boom. Is that good?